Brahmanath. Om. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Swastha.
Good morning, students. Let's begin. Or let's discuss the third unit of The Legend Behind a Legend by Hariharan Balakrishnan. Before we go to the third unit, let's just quickly memorize the second unit. In the second unit, we discussed that after being invited or after getting a positive response from Mr. Chaudhary, Hariharan Balakrishnan packed his bags. He took the train, then the boarded bus from Bhubaneswar, and he reached at 4 a.m. in the semi-darkness at Khairi Jashipur. After getting up and getting down from the bus at 4 a.m., he was really surprised. Now what to do, because it was semi-dark. He happened to hear the click or the sound of the boots reaching closer to him, and he saw that there was a forest guard who had come to welcome him. The forest guard settled him down in the guest house where he was allotted a room. He also assured that there was water in the jug. Hariharan Balakrishnan, the author, had a blissful sleep, and he got up with a shock because he heard the unmistakably voice of a tiger outside the door of the guest house. Obviously, the roaring of the tiger would disturb anybody, and the bearer came with tea and biscuits to the room, and seeing the expression of frightness, seeing the expression on the face of the author, the bearer smiled and assured him that you need not worry. It is Khairi who has come to make a friendly inquiry that who's that new guest who has come to the guest house. And then Hariharan Balakrishnan did have his tea and biscuits. He had a shower. Then he went to meet Saroj Raj Chaudhary. When he went to meet him, he saw that Saroj Raj Chaudhary was sitting on a large chair, and he had a sloth bear. A bear was there around him. Mr. Chaudhary got up to greet the author, and at that time, Hariharan Balakrishnan did find that whatever he had learned from the senior journalists and other elder people about Mr. Chaudhary was all wrong. Mr. Chaudhary was not at all a gruff and a rough, no tolerating nonsense person. He was a very simple and a human being, one who cared not only or showed kindness not only to people but also to animals. And so now let's get to unit 3. Here is the first story that emerged from this very unusual man between sips of coffee. So when Hariharan went to meet Mr. Chaudhary, and in the course of their conversation, when they started their discussion, the first story that emerged means appeared, that came from his very unusual man between sips. Sips or sip means to take in slowly with the help of lips. Normally, tea or coffee, we sip. Okay, we don't drink, we drink water. We sip hot things. Okay, we sip. tea and coffee. So sip means to take in slowly with the help of lips. Man between sips of coffee. So both of them sat down, they started their conversation, and here they were having coffee sip by sip. As you will see, I have different species of wild animals in this house. So the first story that started, which was unusual, by Mr. Chaudhary. He started narrating his first story, and what did he say? I have different species of wild animals in this house. Species means a group of living organisms consisting of similar individuals. Okay, a group of living organisms consisting of similar individuals, that is called species. So what happened here? Here, Mr. Chaudhary says that I have different species of wild animals in this house, and they all came in at different stages of their lives. The lives, plural form of life is lives, L-I-V-E-S. So what does Mr. Chaudhary say to Hariharan, the author? He says that I have different species of animals, wild animals with me, and they have all not come to me in one particular stage of their life. They have come to me in different stages of their life. Some came in infancy. Infancy means early childhood. Okay, so some came in their early childhood, or you can say babyhood. So in infancy stage, it's a stage. Infancy is a stage when a mere born baby. Clear? So he said that all these wild animals that I have come to me in different stages of their life. I have debunked the theory that they cannot coexist unless they are together from infancy. So he's saying, who's saying? Mr. Chaudhary is saying that I have debunked. Debunk means to expose as being false or exaggerated, or in simple terms, you can take debunk means to prove wrong. Okay, in simple terms, to prove wrong. So he says, Mr. Chaudhary says that there is a saying, everybody believes that whenever you get few pets home, you should always get them from the mere infancy stage, so that they get mingle with you easily and they remain as a pet with you. But he says, I have proved this theory wrong. I have debunked. Who's saying? Mr. Chaudhary is saying to Hariharan, the author, that I have proved it wrong. That even they have come to me. They have all come to me in different stages of their life. The theory that they cannot coexist unless they are together from infancy, I have proved it wrong. That they all cannot, the pets cannot exist. Exist means be alive. Coexist means exist at the same time. That all cannot be together. They cannot live together unless everybody has come at the same time in their infancy stage. But this I have proved wrong, because all these wild animals that I have in my menagerie, in my collection, they have all come in different stages of their life. Some have come in their early childhood stage, in their infancy stage. Some have come later when they were a little more mature. Some have come in their middle age, so on. And so he says, as everybody says that when everyone comes in infancy, when pets come in infancy, they can live and coexist at the same time. I have proved this theory wrong. I have debunked this theory. One thing I wanted to experiment with was the reaction of a young tiger to a snake. So here he starts his first story, and here Mr. Chaudhary starts narrating Hariharan, and he says that I wanted to experiment the reaction of a young tiger. At that time, Kari the tigress was in a young stage, okay, to that of a snake. A very unique combination, a unique reaction of a tiger and a snake. One day when Kari was much younger, we found a baby crane in the house. So he's saying that one day when Kari was much younger, there was a baby crate. Okay, it's a poisonous snake. A baby crate was found in the house. As you know, crate is one of the most poisonous snakes. We know that. Crate, cobra, these are very poisonous snakes. Okay? I was noting Kari's reaction to its presence. So Kari was at a young stage when a baby crate entered the house, and crate is a poisonous snake. So when the crate entered the house, Mr. Chaudhary is saying that I kept on marking, I observed. Note, N-O-T, note means to take down. Here noting means to mark or to observe. Okay, so Mr. Chaudhary says that I was noting or marking the reaction of Kari to the presence of that baby crate. And crate was curious, Kari was curious to know more about the strange new creature. And what was the reaction of Kari? Kari, she was curious. Curious means eager to know. Kari was eager to know about that baby crate. Here small or strange new creature refers to the baby crate. Every time the crate got too close to Kari, I would pull it back by its tail. So they started a chasing between Kari and the baby crate. The baby crate used to get closer to Kari, and every time it used to get closer, Mr. Chaudhary used to hold the tail of the baby crate and pull it back so that the baby crate wouldn't harm the tigress Kari. Okay, so he would pull the crate or the baby crate with the tail. This went on for some time. Went on, it's a phrasal verb. Went on means continued. So this kind of a reaction and experiment with Kari and a baby crate continued for some time. At some point, I must have been a little unmindful. Unmindful means absent-minded. Okay? So at some point of time, when this was continuing, every time the crate used to get closer to Kari, Mr. Chaudhary used to pull the crate by its tail. And this continued for some time, and maybe at some point of time, Mr. Chaudhary became absent-minded or unmindful. What did happen? Let's see. It turned round and bit me. What? It means what? Who's mentioned as it here? It's the snake crate, the small baby crate that is mentioned as it over here. So the crate, the baby crate turned round and bit me. Who's me? Mr. Chaudhary. When Mr. Chaudhary was pulling the tail of the crate, every now and then when it used to go closer to Kari, and this continued for some time, and maybe he became unmindful, he became absent-minded, and the baby crate turned around and bit Mr. Chaudhary. Okay? By bit, bitten. Bit is the past of bite. So I immediately tied a tourniquet above that and got the poison out. And a tourniquet means a piece of cloth bound tightly to stop bleeding. You know, when you're bleeding, you tie the piece of cloth, you bond. That is called tourniquet. And the poison came out. I saw the doctor as soon as possible. Here saw doesn't mean to see, to look at. Here saw means to consult. So he says, Mr. Chaudhary says that when the crate, the baby crate bit me, I immediately consulted a doctor. I tied a piece of cloth. I bought a piece of cloth and a I consulted a doctor. I saw the doctor as soon as possible. Luckily, it was a baby snake. He was lucky that the snake wasn't a grown-up snake but was a baby snake. Till some of this poison got into my bloodstream, and as a result, I am now a permanent patient of hypoglycemia. So he says that apart from, as he treated himself, he tied a piece of cloth, he bound a piece of cloth, a tourniquet, and he took out the poison. He consulted, Mr. Chaudhary also consulted a doctor, but still what happened was that the poison had got into means mixed or entered into the bloodstream, and because of that, what was the consequence, what was the result of this poison that got mixed with the blood? What happened? That Mr. Chaudhary became a permanent patient of hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is a condition of having a very low blood pressure or a low blood sugar is called hypoglycemia. By the time he finished this astonishing story, Jumbo took a fancy to me and climbed behind to give me his bear hug. So by the time the first story that Mr. Chaudhary was narrating to Hariharan Balakrishnan about the crate and Khairi, the tigress, when she was in a young stage and a baby crate, and how the things went on when that came to an end. Jumbo, you know, who's Jumbo? Tell me, who's Jumbo? Yes, you're right, the bear, the sloth bear, okay? The sloth bear took a fancy. To take a fancy means to start liking someone. The bear showed animal, genuine, friendly gesture, okay, towards Hariharan, and what did Jumbo, the sloth bear, do? It climbed behind to give me here refers to Hariharan Balakrishnan, me his bear hug. Bear hug means, it means that embrace given by a bear. Animal hug, you can take it as embrace or hug by an animal. So here it's a bear, so it's a bear hug. The bear wanted to give a bear hug or embrace Hariharan Balakrishnan. Clear? And so, a stern no. Stern means strict. Okay? Stern, S-T-E-R-N, you can see. Stern means strict no. Who said this no? It was said by Mr. Chaudhary when Jammu the bear wanted or was finding fondness of getting closer to Hariharan Balakrishnan, and the bear wanted to give or embrace Hariharan Balakrishnan with an animal hug. So Mr. Chaudhary gave a strict no. What is the opposite of strict? What's the opposite of strict? Lenient. Okay? So, from Saroj was enough to dissuade him from this expression of fondness. So very strictly Mr. Chaudhary didn't want the bear to do so. The bear was finding fondness, a friendly gesture towards Hariharan. But Mr. Chaudhary stopped him very strictly, saying no. And dissuade means keep someone away. So Mr. Chaudhary kept the bear away. As the day progressed between our conversations and the intermittent crackle of the VHF wireless set by which he was giving instructions to his men in the forest. So when this was continuing, the things carried on, what happened between their conversation, when Mr. Chaudhary and Hariharan were having a conversation, slight conversation, at that time, intermittent means occurring occasionally or at regular or irregular collection of wild animals, and he also brought them at different stages of their life to him. He nourished them, he groomed them, he Christianed them, and they were a part of his family. And so here Hariharan refers it as a veritable joint family, and each had a name. And so Mr. Chaudhary had not just kept the respect in his house, but he had also Christian, or he had also named them or given them a name. Like the tigress was named as Khairi, the sloth bear was named as Jambu, and so he had also given a name to the animals that he had in his house as a joint family. So with this we have completed unit 3. Before we wind up, before we finish, let's just discuss 2 questions so that it makes you a little more simpler. Okay, what theory did Mr. Chaudhary prove wrong? Prove wrong means debunk. So what theory did Mr. Chaudhary prove wrong? The theory that animals who come in different stages cannot coexist together unless they come in infancy. This theory he had debunked, or he had proved wrong. Clear? And the second question, what was his first story about? His means Mr. Chaudhary. What was his first story about? His first story of Mr. Chaudhary's first story was about Khairi and the baby crate, or the reaction of Khairi to the presence of a baby crate. With this, we have completed unit 3. Thank you.